I'ma get medieval on your ass.
All right.
Always. That opening always does it. No matter how many weeks we see it, the
I
opening
know.
is just the quintessential thing to start the episode with.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Getting Medieval, which I believe today is episode 4. And we've got some very good stuff that's been brewing with the entire series. But as always, I'm Alexander Storm. On the other side is my better half, Dr. Brentley. And down below is Darth Moocher, our moderator from the Sorlak Digest podcast channel. And before we start off, make sure you're doing 2 things. You're subscribing to the Shadow Nose Network, and also you're subscribing over to the Sorlak Digest podcast. And at the end, there'll be a homework assignment because there's one other thing for you to assign to. So, as usual, let me turn it over to Darth Moocher. Welcome, sir.
All right. Well, hey guys, we're here again. We just watched episode 7 of Rings of Power, season 2. One more left. So next week is the season finale. My opinion, I felt we've got half of a season finale with this episode right here. It felt epic. And where can they go from here to kind of like tie a bow on this season? But before we get into all like the details and everything for season 2, we've already started getting word on season 3. Like some exciting news about the creators saying, "Hey, don't worry, it's cooking." Yeah. Right? I think literally they said that's cooking. So that's exciting too to know that they're doing it this early on.
Yes.
Me for one, and I know you guys are on the same boat of like we're in this, to kind of see this play out through all the seasons that they've got planned. Again, I know that there's that, sentiment out there that it's not, driven by the books, but again, this is a creative adaptation of the Second Age of Middle Earth, and I'm having a great time with this season. I'm actually liking this season more than season 1.
Yeah.
And as we get into talking about episode 7, there was one glaring thing that happened that I'll get into, but then that made me kind of scared for every scene after that, because I go, are they taking these creative liberties way too far? Or is it just something that's a plot point that's just to carry that scene over? And so because we've got, the whole, Eregion battle commenced. Like it was in full effect this episode, and I'm sitting there going, "Okay, look, Gilgalad is there. Elrond is there. We've got Elindir back. Who's dying? Like, are they gonna really? I was kind of fearful that they were gonna start killing off characters that really that can't be killed off, just because of that one scene. And again, we'll get into it, but that was the first time in 2 seasons that I actually got nervous watching. But at the same time, I was at the edge of my seat watching, the Siege of Eregion commence. For this being we understand the budget for this being a TV show. How were you guys impressed? With the scope and magnitude? It wasn't no Battle of Helm's Deep, but I mean.
No, it was impressive, and I would say that it was impressive only on the aspect that the special effects were amazing. There's again, we're gonna, if you haven't watched it, we're gonna throw spoilers. So, you should have already watched this if you're gonna watch us for the recap.
Yes, we give you plenty of time. Yeah,
there was just not the size of the orc army was amazing. All of the CGI of the castle, and then standing sets. There's a giant troll that shows up, and he's absolutely looks like he's in the screen and interacting with those characters. It was just the scope of it was on the same level that you're watching a motion picture. It was, that budget was put in there, and you're like, wow. Again, this is not Weta that's doing. It's not an ILM. We're gonna have to probably check and see who that creative company is, but they are doing some damn good work for television. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I thought there were some missed opportunities among this battle, and as we get into it, I'll talk about them.
Okay.
But yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah.
But there's, little things that just make it more of an entertaining experience for the audience that was real easy. I think that they just either missed or cut out.
Huh.
That was a little bit of a mistake.
Well, let's get into the whole siege of Eregion. And so go ahead and start with that, Dr. Benton. Like
Okay,
some of
so
that. Yeah.
the part where the cave troll and Damrod,
Damrod. Yes.
Damrod, that's him.
So he's coming in, he's messing people up left and right. Elrond, he hits the thing, gets him, but he's thrown aside. And then just out of nowhere in one shot, Gil-galad and his couple of guys come on horses with hooks and get him and take him down.
Yeah.
Right. So that's fine. It's a cool scene. But
Yeah.
it's just the one shot of them coming in on horses. What would have worked better in a storytelling sense is Gil-galad and his guys are coming over. They see some orcs with hooks, and they're trying to get up on the wall. And they come in, they do some cool shit with staffs and get them. And then they hear some, oh my God, what's over there? And they see the cave troll. Elrond goes flying, and he's like, guys, pick up the hooks. And then that's the last you see of them until they come riding in on the horses.
Yeah.
So, stuff like that, it's like that would have added to the excitement, I think, of the battle.
I agree. And there's another one when we get into the dwarven stuff. There was an off-screen event that happened. I'm like, well, that sucked. That would have been awesome to see, like going into that. So maybe editing.
When the guy comes with a bloody head, and you're like,
what happened? Yeah. I mean, so it could be an editing thing where they filmed. It could have been like hey, we have a 2-hour episode, which would be fine. I mean, this is not programming here. This is just throw it out there.
They're not putting this on regular TV.
Right,
they can put these episodes as long as they want.
Put more commercials in, fine. If that gets us more, if we get the Snyder director's cut one day, maybe that scene will be in there where they pick the hooks up. But yeah, I was just about to say before you brought that up, because now as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I love the way they marinated the battle, and it really kind of, focused a lot of things. And because they did the whole dam breaking, taking the sieges and and at first I'm like, it was like a prolonged event and stuff. It wasn't just a fast battle. Like it wasn't just quick and over with. And I think it's still going to be going on into next episode too.
Well, because the orcs have breached the wall, so we know that part of the final episode is going to probably be about a good percentage of it is still the battle.
Yeah,
because there's a couple of events and things that's happened that they haven't given us all the closure on. And I think like Dr. Brentley was saying is like, there was a missed opportunity, but that I do think that could have been an editing cut.
Yeah, like I said,
that seemed very editing that they came out of nowhere. And but with the I think with the dwarves, I don't know if that was edited out or we're going to see that event next episode.
Probably, yeah. I was thinking about that too. Like, is it going to be something where we'll see King Durin go ape? You know what I mean? Like just start taking out his own people, and because the ring is giving him exceptional powers and strength and everything else. It was kind of taking it back. Like, whoa, wait, what happened? Oh, I had to pay attention. Oh, the king got. Oh, he did this. Like, I want to see that. Yeah,
they kind of did tease it because at one point he's sitting there, and then he gets up abruptly.
And
he takes off.
Yeah.
And then
I knew something was going to happen.
So they were cutting and sensing, and I think that next
and it did cut back to Anatar right after he did that.
Yeah.
So you can tell that he is controlling a bit.
Yes,
the rings.
That's where I kind of think that next episode we're going to see the events that he
still
goes
happening.
in, and again, there's so many integral parts that's going on.
Yeah,
from, like you got Elrod where he's like, hey, they're like the dwarfs are showing up and everything.
So
and
sad.
Then you're like,
I love it.
I don't think that's going to happen, brother.
The point. So like this episode wasn't just a battle. It was so many moving, like I said, so many moving parts. You have Anatar and Celebrimbor is there dynamics and that chemistry between those two actors and just the characters themselves was devastating yet interesting as hell. Then you have Prince Durin calling or coming to the aid of Elrond on, yes, we're gonna do this, and giving this amazing speech, and then the king disrupts that. Then you have the siege of Eregion, but it's also like it's not over. So are the dwarves are they going to show up last minute, or is it just like because again, and I am expecting a lot of dire plans and a lot of dire events because this is Sauron's season. This is his season, so we're going to see a lot. We're not going to see a lot of things that are going to go against him, right? We also saw the forging of the rings completed; they're done.
Yes,
like everything is done. We know that they cannot be destroyed or in the way that they were trying to do.
He tried.
We saw a lot this episode. There was so much to break down, and that I think the heartfelt scene in this was Elrond looking to the west or whatever it was to see if the dwarves were going to come with their army, and then the messenger came back with a bunch of arrows in them. It's like they're not coming, and it looked very dire for a second there. You still had Adar telling Elrond to meet me on the field and we'll settle us on the field, and because he wants the elven ring, he wants Galadriel's ring, and he gets it. And he gets it. And I'm sitting there going, oh crap, are they going to stab? Is he going to kill Elrond? But no. But he did stab, and I don't know. He's not, look, no body, no death, right? If he doesn't show it. Arendir, he got stabbed twice by Adar. It would be, if those two took each other out, I wouldn't be surprised. And actually, I would like that because again, Arendir is after revenge, and Adar, if those two, because we were talking last week about like Adar has to get out of the picture at some point, and then Sauron taking over the orc army and then expanding and making a presence of, because he really did make his presence known, and like everybody, it's out, the secret's out, because the rings are done. He doesn't really care about hiding anymore at this point. When it comes to the elves, I know he wages war on the elves for many years, and the siege of Eregion lasts for like 9-10 years. But is this the real siege, or is this the precursor to the actual siege that's coming? So that's interesting too to explore it. But
this is the real siege. They're not going to come back.
I mean,
I want to know how quick the Grey Havens is going to happen, because that's the next part. Right? It's like they can either do it immediately or wait until season 3 and build up to that, or
which
do
I
it
think
somewhere
they will.
in the middle.
Yeah, I think they will. What I did like about this episode, so close to the finale, we only jumped to 2 places. We were only at Eregion and Khazad-dûm. We only were at these 2 places. We didn't, and that's where the bulk of the story was. And so in the comments, people listen in the comments, let us know if this was epic as a precursor, because a lot of times that second to last episode is kind of like this calm before the storm, and this was the storm. And so I'm like, well, man, the freaking premiere or the finale is going to be just go because there's a lot of things that were in the previews that are still haven't come to fruition.
Exactly. And they did a good job of ending this episode, and immediately where the next episode is taking off from.
Yes.
Like sometimes you go into the final episode and they're still building something. No. From where this ended to where it's going to go, it's going to be all out. So I'm expecting episode 8 to be complete action from the very moment those cameras turn on. Yeah,
there'll be some, like, I know that Sauron and Galadriel have their moment. They're going to have a face-to-face moment as Anatar and Galadriel. And she's, there's that scene where she's got Morgoth's crown, and, so is he going to get the crown back? And it's just going to be great. They're going to have to tie in some things like Isildur. We haven't seen Isildur in like 3 episodes. But again, I'm not complaining. That's just something that I'm excited to see, because he is a major player moving forward, and they got to set it all up for the season 3 that's happening or they're talking about it. I guess they're finalizing everything now. So
yeah.
which is
And
promising.
that's a good sign because I think we're going to get this episode, well, season 3 will take place during the summer of next year. I don't think they're going to wait as far back
That's
as they
great.
did.
If they do, man.
I think they're priming because one, they moved from New Zealand to back to London.
So
but
it's a little.
Two is that I think they didn't like it as far as it being as the end of the summer. This probably would have been the preempted summer event kind of thing. They allowed Game of Thrones to start off a little early and take that and see. They know there's no Game of Thrones next year,
right?
So
so they can capitalize on it, and that would be smart, you know. As long as there's still hour 10, hour 20-minute episodes,
yes,
you know what I mean, and 8 of them, like that's because when you start seeing, oh look, this season only gonna be 6, I'm like, okay, what are they doing? Are they're gonna cut corners? Are they gonna really, I just, my thing is, like, again, I don't want them to bend to pressure. I don't want Amazon. I love companies that see a vision through, no matter. Again, I don't know if it's bad business or good business, but I'm not in that seat. I'm in the seat of the entertainee, the consumer, and I want quality, and I want things that doesn't make sense for businesses sometimes, so I just don't want them to bow under any pressure, because again, we hear it, doing this show, we start to hear it into, but well, we won't get into it too much. We already kind of said our things past couple episodes about what the show is and what it's doing, but again, to each his own. So with this, so I can't help but go to Anatar and
Celebrimbor.
What's it? Thank you, Celebrimbor. I was getting there. Yeah, I can't help but to go back to that, because we got this moment where Celebrimbor is outside drinking his little tea.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like all calm and like, all right, da 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 da. And that he starts seeing, like, he's stuck in this matrix kind of thing. He sees the rat or the mouse kind of go and do the same routine. He sees, he marks the candle to see the time frame, and he kind of realizes that he's stuck in this thing, thing. And then he gets a glimpse of his real self, and it freaks him out. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant in that sense of his awakening, and Anatar coming to him and confirming him, I am Sauron, and you're going to do this for me, but you're going to do this because of peace. We got to bring peace to the world. We're really manipulating and really just hitting it home, because I love the fact that there was conflict this whole season with those two. Even with Celebrimbor, with wanting to make the rings and then hesitant and then demand, I'm not going to do it, and to the force where I have to, because I don't want to be tortured and enslaved by Sauron now that is confirmed. So like I said, I can watch those two all day. I can have a whole season of those two.
That was more of a cop out, though, because eventually he knows that there's, Sauron's gonna kill him. It's not like even if he makes this, is like, the walls are down, the city's burnt to the ground. There's no saving the situation. He's just purely doing that probably to get enough time to make sure that he can get the rings out. But there's a couple of Celebrimbor. I thought this was probably one of his finest episodes, especially as the actor and the whole presentation. But there's a point where he's talking to Sauron. I love when he goes, "It's not strength, but it's light," and he's letting them know that it doesn't matter the force that you're using. It's the light that is the thing that's what power is.
Yeah,
and just that kind of leeway and just the acting between both of these actors, you could see a ending for it.
Yeah.
And yet you're still like, a little saddened by it, because, now you've realized that you didn't appreciate the performances in the first several episodes. And this is a culmination of just a brilliant performance between two actors.
Yeah,
100%.
I loved the bit where in the last episode, Anatar comes back with this mithril that's all ground up, and we're like, we didn't see that. We didn't see him get that. Where did he get that? Oh, I guess that one of the elves must have given it to him. right?
Or he stole it on the way out.
One of the dwarves. So then when you see, oh no, that was his blood that he's been pouring into this whole time. It's like, oh my god, perfect. All part of the illusion. But that was creepy.
Causing him to go insane in the process, because when he did go outside and realized that everybody's under siege and he could not speak to anybody, the manipulation was not, like I said, he had control of the entire city and everybody that came in contact with Anatar, but by the soldiers, by everybody's mind, because every time Celebrimbor was trying to tell him the truth, this is Sauron, and they all thought he was nuts. And even when he cut off his own thumb to escape, it's like this crazy guy, and again, I love that. Like I said, you can die and not finish the rings for the greater good of the world, but that notion, I guess, with Sauron just put that fear into him, because he was talking, he was like, yeah, you know what, even Morgoth tortured me. How do you think my master treated me? Because I'm treating you the same way, and we're both victims here. You know what I mean? Like and it really made sense to Celebrimbor, I guess, to do this plan, like Alex said, maybe to finish it, but then to take it from, like, finish it and to hide them, so I can get out of the situation, I can save my people, and then we have something to hold over Sauron's head or something. And it did work at the end when Galadriel showed up, and it kind of like, he didn't.
There's a rhyme and reason for it.
Sauron doesn't have him as possession, and I kind of want to see Sauron go get mad, like, because it's great to have him, that master manipulator, where he walks out, don't worry, and he's got it all under control. I think they will, and they have done this a little bit, where I think he's going to lose it a little bit, like
of course,
get pissed off and be like, where are those rings, and start destroying things, and like, because I think that adds to the the unstable of his character. Like, he's unstable, but at the same time, he's trying to, like, do these things, very manipulative and everything. So I do want to see him kind of lose it a little bit and threaten.
I think he has to, and I think he has to only on the aspects that he's going to have to seize the orcs back. And it's going to take an act of power and sheer savageness in order for this to happen. Because he's been so benign and very kind of like peaceful and kind of going about his way, and you need to see that transition of seeing how truly evil Sauron is. And even I thought this episode was interesting on the aspects from the orcs, because the orcs behind the line was like, well, technically, aren't you just as bad as Sauron was? It's like they are confused. So I think that by this siege and by them just basically being annihilated, because boy, they're like, orcs are going left and right in this last episode. And I think that the orcs, I think you'll see a natural turn for them, because they're like, well, you use this as cannon fire, and what's the difference between you and Sauron? It's gonna be different, I think.
Adar is hell bent on getting rid of Sauron, and for the right reasons for Middle Earth, and he just wants to exist, coexist, whatever, under Mordor. He created that thing so the orcs and his children can thrive, but at the same time, he's getting sloppy. He's getting blinded by the that point of it, where all the precious children that he deemed precious, and all that, he even had a funeral for him. He cried, and they called him father. Now he's being reckless with their own lives, and the orcs here are being like, so who's really worse here? So when again, speculating, but when Sauron comes and says, I am going to treat you better, they're going to believe him. Or again, it's going to be under the fear, because they're losing that thing with Adar. And I think, Adar's losing vision. I think he's the one that's losing vision. Like, I'll fight, almost like I'll sacrifice to the last orc just to get rid of him. And like, well, if you do that, then there's no reason for us to even have a home to fight for and stuff. And that is a conflict within the orcs hierarchy, or the personalities, but again, I think they're still evil enough that, they're on their own, they would lay siege to Middle Earth regardless of who's leading, so they're like they're like chaotic evil. They're really quick to follow and they're really quick to destroy. But Adar had a plan. He had he bred in them like, we are special. We need our own portion of Middle Earth to thrive. We can't just rape and pillage and do all these things. We need, we're going to try to like do our own thing. And like I said, Sauron's going to do the same things. They're going to promise it, but he'll show them visions of it. They're going to see this happens and see it. And again, when we get to the Third Age, that's when he's got dominion over them. There's no way that it can escape, So I love that transition where Adar is actually becoming the enemy of the
exactly.
Well, and we see in his lieutenant, the second in command, he was more sketchy looking than the last episode. He's just like, you know what? This is not going to last much longer because
he wanted to retreat. Yeah, they were like, "Hey, we're losing so much. Let's go back and like save what we can."
Didn't you say? He's like, "No, go forward." It's like, he's going to kill some of us too. He's like, just do it.
Yeah. Like I said, blinded by rage.
Adar had received that ring, so now you're kind of wondering, like, which now I segue into the reason why he might be ousted, because this is before he has the ring of power in his hand. He now has this. Yeah. So now what is that going to do to him? Because we've seen it transform all the other characters that have it in their possession. Yeah. So how bad is this really going to go? And I got a feeling it's going to go to a critical point where they're like, no, we'll deal with Sauron over Adar because this guy is totally lost it at the end.
Yeah. And this may be that point where Sauron has to really just like beef up and like really just show his true self or whatever to beat Adar at this competition now that he's got Galadriel's ring. Or it might do the opposite. I don't know. Maybe it makes him a good guy. I don't know. Like that would be a twist too. I mean, who knows? Like I said,
rings haven't done that to anybody. So
no. Exactly.
Or Adar could just bow down to Sauron. Just as soon as he has it, it's just like, yes, I'll do whatever you say, Master.
Right. Could be. Yeah, exactly. Because it is Sauron. Well, that's the Elven ring, which Sauron really didn't have influence over, but he still has dominion over it. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I still think Eregion is alive.
Yes, I know he is.
And like I said, it makes sense for that revenge point for him and Adar to take themselves out, like Eregion to die, but also taking Adar out at the same time. And Gil-galad, okay, the king of the elves, the High King. We know that he survives until the battle of the Wraith, right? When he I'm not gonna tell what happens to him or it doesn't, but it was great to see him in action with that spear and everything that he has. I felt like finally you came to your senses, like finally you grew some, and like you're in this. You recognize it, Sarah. You recognize this stuff because before it was just like, no, do this, go to Valinor and just leave me alone. We're fine. So it was great to see him. Though,
that it was more than what we thought it was going to be, because when he comes in, I'm like, okay, either we're going to see something that's going to be lackluster from the king.
Oh yeah.
See him take to the next level, and I was like, okay.
Well, we know he magically.
While you're the king.
He magically gonna just have hooks in his hands, like, hey, take out a cave troll. So, going back a little bit to the scene where Elrond was charging the lines of Adar, and Adar's right there, and then of course they reveal they have Galadriel as prisoner, and they stop, right, and then they have like this meeting of the captain's meeting where it was like abrupt captain's meeting, boom, and now we're sitting on the table, and Adar's talking to Elrond, and basically telling him, and like Adar's like, well, this is what I want, and Elrond's like, no, they were like, we'll settle this on the battlefield, kind of deal. The one thing that I was just, and I kind of like stopped and was like, it was the kiss. It was Galadriel and Elrond's kiss. Okay. First off, I was like, I was kind of not surprised, but it's also surprised at the same time, because they don't have in the lore, they don't have a romantic connection other than and I will spoil this because I don't think where the show's going to go with this, but Elrond does marry Galadriel's daughter, like in the
It's
lore.
his mother-in-law he's making out
Based,
with.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
we've all done that before.
Yeah. And also I think Galadriel and Elrond are related twice removed in a way back way. You know, they are. They come.
I mean, but the whole point of that though was just to give her the little.
That's where.
Thing.
Yes, 100%, Dr. Brent. Thank you for saying that, because that's where people were losing their mind. Like, oh, and I think my reaction was, oh, here we go, the internet. You know, like, here we go. We're gonna have to hear this. I think it was a ploy to do that, because why would Adar allow that them to
and that's the only reason that you would allow them to be that close is to share a kiss. Yes. Otherwise you can have a conversation from here.
That's right.
But,
and,
30 seconds into, you thought it was some Game of Thrones stuff going. You're just 30 seconds into, you're like, okay, maybe they're trying to. Then it was like, okay, great. There's a reason behind this. But
because if they do progress with a love story moving forward with those two, that's going to cause some issues. And even with me, I'd be like, it just, but then I can also headcanon in a way. It's like, well, he married her daughter because he was in love with, kind of like the second best thing. I don't know. It's just, so it gets weird.
Game of Thrones-ish.
It gets weird after that, So, but I do think, and I'm with you on that. I do think it was a ploy for that scene for her to get that key and escape. So 100%. So when they don't pick that up, people maybe calm down, or they'll just carry on the way they do. And oh well, it is what it is at this point. So, but that was that one thing when they did that, because my mind went, okay, all right. First off, the internet's going to go ape. Second off, if they do this love story moving forward, then I'm thinking, all right, nothing is safe. Like nothing is safe from any character anymore, and that's where my fear kind of crept in just a little bit. Sauron planted that seed of the doubt in me. I was like, oh crap. Now that means they're doing their own thing, which a lot of people will argue they are, which I don't think so. I think they're doing both, and not that drastic, meaning like they're not gonna kill Isildur. They're not gonna have things that are so impactful that make people go like, all right, this is done. So
no, I think their ultimate goal is for it to line up with the Peter Jackson movies, so that you can watch this and then watch that, and it's like a little prequel series. Yeah,
because I always do. You guys watch those after those interviews and stuff that they have the show? Well, it's very interesting, right? And a couple times they had some of the creators that were just doing like little interviews, and like I said, from our episode, our first one doing this, they are very aware of the lore, and they got permission to do this. Like this is, they bought the rights, but that doesn't give them like they could just do whatever, but they got permission to do a lot of stuff, and they got approval to do a lot of stuff. So, and again, condensing it into a 50-year time frame or whatever it is, they're going to have to do things. But, I thought those interviews give you a lot of insight on the creators. So when anybody's out there say, "Oh, the creators don't know anything," I say, "Well, they do, but they're explaining why they are going this route. It's all there if you just watch, right? Don't arms fold, not watch is different than
Well, I think you've got to have an aspect of embracing the unknown, and I think even when we were watching Peter Jackson stuff, it was like. There's a difference between the embracing of something that we just didn't know what was going on. I think this is a little different because there is they are trying to bookend this. And if you listen to the creators, they are basically letting you know, because in one interview they did so much say that they are making sure that this is a timeless transition into the previous work that had been done before. So and I think they've been I haven't seen anything so shocking that I thought I need to turn the TV off on.
No. Like I said, if they continue this love story going forward, that's going to get a little bit. It's going to get a little bit hairy there. It really will, just because that's a liberty that's very distant. You know what I mean? Like I said, even if they kill off somebody major, that's like very distant. They can't do that to bring someone else up. So there's beats that they have to hit, and I think they're hitting those beats. Honestly, I really do think they're hitting them.
Now, these characters do live for thousands of years, so you know our dating norms are going to be different than theirs, right? So
yeah.
So her daughter, they're a couple hundred years apart. That doesn't mean anything to them.
And again, what have I been saying this whole time? They didn't. It wasn't. It was not written. It was not written. I don't know. Like it was never explained that they never had a relationship.
They could have been, exes. And then a couple years later, he's like, "Oh, hey, who are you? Oh, really? Her daughter?
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
No,
I missed my chance the first time.
It has happened. It has happened in some situation.
It's
They're using also brand new elves and everything to seize moments. So they've been doing a good job of keeping the main elves away from some of the perils. And there was one character, the archery character, I think it was like
Eregion.
And just popped up out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, we need this thing taken. And I was like, we all knew that elf was dead.
I know what you're talking about, the Asian female elf.
Yes.
Now, that is one of my things that the second one that I was like, missed opportunity.
Okay.
Because they say her name once when as she comes in, and it's like Reina or something like that.
Yeah.
And so she just comes in. He's like, "Well, your arrow can win the war still, right?" Yeah. And then the next thing, he looks around, and then she's getting shot with like 3 arrows, and then she does 1 shot, and then the thing blows up. But if you knew, like, okay, we have to go on those siege engines, is this flame pot that if you hit it, it'll blow the whole thing up. So little information ahead of time would help, right?
Yeah, because I was like, what are they talking about? Right. I really did. I'm all, what one arrow? What are they doing? Oh, okay. Then when I'm like, okay, that makes it. Yeah.
If you knew all of this stuff, and then also have an element of like maybe Adar or one of them from further away sees what they're doing.
Yes.
And then he's like, oh, hey, give me your bow. And then you go back to them, and he's like, all right, just take it out. And she goes, and then, she gets hit.
Yeah.
And then, there's another one. And then he does a fight. You go back to him, and he does the last one. And then very weakly, and everyone thinks, oh, it's all over now. She's the only one that could have made the shot.
Right.
And then she gets done. One off, and then she's gone. And then it blows up, and then all this stuff happens. But, just little things like that.
Yeah.
That if you set it up, then pay it off, it works a lot better than just having the payoff.
Yeah.
Well, I laughed about, it's like, you're the one that can make the shot, and I'm like, every damn elf can fire a bow and arrow. Like,
they've got great eyes,
light it up. I mean, throw hundreds of arrows.
How many times have you seen them? Like, one just threw a bag of flame retardant in the air, and I was like, "What are you talking about? This is the only one. Like, every one of you can fire an arrow pretty damn good because
we're only bringing one archer with us to this battle."
So it's just crappy. I was like, "You're that one." I'm like, "What are they talking about?" I just seen like one just like almost close his eyes and like kill 3 of them.
Yeah. So you know what it seems like? It feels like somebody wrote that scene and like, this, we have to get this in. Yeah. All right, do it. All right, we got 5 hours of sunlight left. We'll just do we'll do Mark's scene just to shut him up, and then and we have to edit this out. Why? Well, we can't. Mark is the grandson of the head executive of where we have to. So he got his scene in. A great comparison to what works and how that one scene was in Two Towers when Saruman is building the bomb, and they did that whole line and said the weak point. It's you got the build up, you got the whole thing, the payoff, the reason, shoot him, boom. I mean, everything worked, breaking the dam out of Helm's Deep.
And also you show all the different characters, because it goes to Theoden and is like, is this all you have, Saruman? Exactly. And it's like, oh, famous last words, bad idea.
Yeah. That, and again, that's the way it's edited right. As I said, it began 40 minutes earlier, and now you have this thing. That's what he did. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the battle, like I said, I think they probably filmed so much, but the way it was edited, and that's why I would love a one-to-one, like an open talk with some of the editors or the creatives of B or Amazon itself, like saying, we only have an hour 10. And then we're like, well, why do you only have an hour 10? Why couldn't you give us an extended battle scene? Like, we're patient. We got this. I mean, what's 5 more minutes of
Yeah. Peter Jackson did it for 45 minutes in one movie, so
I'm still seeing cut footage, never before seen footage from all of the movies that he even saw. It was funny, like you mentioned that Sauron's blood in the Rings of the Men, right? Well, there was a scene that was filmed but cut, and that prologue where Sauron cuts himself and bleeds into the gold ring and then forging it and then putting on him. Because in that scene where he's like in the Mount Doom, there's a blade in his hand. It's a dagger. And so before he had cut and put his blood into it. And so I think these creators knew that, and they put it into Rings of Power. Probably one of the best ways they did it, right? Like,
very so.
Oh yeah, it's great. But yeah, I'm hoping that this comes on a DVD format sometime, and then we have this.
It's going.
Okay, cool.
Amazon's gonna look. They got a lot of money.
I will buy it. Well, here you go, Amazon. You're listening. I know you're listening. I will buy it. I will buy it. I will buy it. We are a physical collector. We like physical items.
We are now.
But extras,
do the extended version like the book versions of the Jackson movies. It would look beautiful.
And take the commercials out of it. Take the
And I think that, to your point also, Darth, is that you're right about the hour 5, hour 7, hour 10 kind of thing. And I think that it's just I think it's a TV lore. Like, these are certain things with HBO, and I truly believe that Amazon, they could take some liberties and go like an hour 30 or something if they needed to. And I think it's because they are trying to strictly keep that mandate where this is television. And instead, it's like, because, going to an hour 7 is still kind of controversial when you should be breaking it down to somewhere between 49 to 52 minutes.
Right.
Yet there are moments where you're like, no, I think this needed 15 more minutes.
Now that Dr. Brantley brings it up and you start to relive it, and I just kind of took it for granted. I was like, that was a cool scene. That was a cool scene. But sometimes cool scenes don't make up the narrative.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make it all come together as like this thing. Like I said, everything that you go back to Peter Jackson's films, the Battle of Helm's Deep, and even Return of the King, Battle of Gondor, Minas Tirith. Everything happened for a reason. Like, the Elephant Riders came at that and just there was a reason why they were there, and it turned the tide of the war. So it wasn't just a scene just for the sake of it. And I felt even Damrod was kind of like a scene just for the sake of it. I was like, I mean, his point. He helped break the wall a little bit, but he didn't.
He didn't. He didn't do the final. If it was him that made the final crack, and everything, it would be different.
Yeah.
But I still thought that it's because first of all, he's a character that we only saw like a couple episodes just once show up, and he's like, all right, and they were built, and they did the classic thing that they do in all films. They built him up like, don't worry, at one point we're gonna need you, big fella. This is a lot of CGI. just go off somewhere and pretend like you're doing something. And then they did this like, okay, we got 5 minutes for Durant. Then what are we gonna do? Let's get him through. And they did a great job. And I thought that, again, purposely, he looked like he was in the piece. It did not look like bad.
I liked his laugh at the end.
Oh yeah, exactly.
When he died, I like that. Like what he was trying. Like I said, I wish it was that as his death, he did that final blow that broke the wall, and then that caused the orcs to come into, and instead of like smack it again, and then boom, and someone dies, and smack it again.
I think that's the reason why it's working so well, is that he was also, you said, well, as the one orc said, well, it's like, there's going to be much destruction if you send them in and everything else like that, and we're going to be
do it.
And he was like, yeah, do it. And then when he shows in, and then they are able to see that how, it was not easily, but how quickly that they underestimated the elves to be able to take this hill troll down.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think that only worsens the orcs' attitude. Was like, all right, our heavy hitter came, and you just wasted him. And the elves took him down. So now it's like that turn is, there's so many more levels of them turning, because they're like, look what you just did. You just wasted our heavy artillery on something that didn't really even crack the wall down. How much destruction is needed for this?
And this shows a great progression of the orcs' destruction later on as they get better and better and better for every siege, and as time goes on, especially when Sauron takes over. When Sauron takes over in the series, he's always had them in the books, right? But I actually don't mind it where it's like, all right, the orcs are easily defeated, or they're not as well planned. It was, like I said, and you could blame it on Adar, because it's like he was blinded by that focus of rage. Just get that wall down. Let's get in there. We'll kill Sauron without his initial plan. You know, you even have the 3 elven rings that he wanted with Morgoth's crown and the 3 elven rings that can kill, but you didn't even have any of that. Like, you're going after Sauron just, you know, blindly. And I don't know if but the next time, I think that's like when Sauron takes over the army, I think that's where they get a little more militant and more organized and a little more dangerous. And I think that's a great progression. Otherwise, if it's the same army going over and over and they keep losing all the time, what threat are they other than a nuisance, right? It's like, oh crap, Sauron's involved now? Okay. So.
And even in this case, it's like, it's not a loss because they destroyed a magnificent city.
Oh yeah, no, this,
and like, there is like whatever casualties they took upon this.
Yeah,
they destroyed a pillar in Middle Earth, and that's something on its own that stands between a great triumph. Because just them I thought it was ingenious in the writing when they turned the giant catapults. I'm like, what in the hell are they turning the catapults?
Right.
And then to dam up the river, and I was like, oh snap. The river. And actually, look, you got to give a little bit of credit to these writers, because even as a writer myself, I'm like, why the hell? And then once they dammed up, like, the river was the main reason holding them back.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, that was just amazing. Now, obviously, that since it's television, that river dammed up really quick.
Right.
I will say though, that was one of my favorite effects shots. Is not any of the big stuff. It was the side view of the river rushing by as they were all watching. It was something about that was like very primal. Like, it was just like, oh, that's bad.
There are some amazing foreshadowing shots, some subliminal symbols going on. The symbol of the ring is everywhere in this series. The shot when the catapults are flying over and has the sun being blocked out by the smoke of the fire catapults, and it's just kind of like darkening the day. Anatar with the elves, when Celebrimbor, they surround him, he surrounds them, and they're in a ring, and it's a top shot, and it's like, and they turn them swords on each other. And it's like this whole thing is like the ring, the one ring, and Sauron's the one, and I love all that stuff because it's there, but it's there in symbols, but not like a narrative, like throwing it, punching you in the face with it every 2 seconds.
Yeah,
so we get this, we understand what's going on, and it's all done on purpose, Yeah, and like I said, I'm just waiting for Sauron to just kind of like, all right, I've got the rings are made. All I have to do is I've got time. I'm immortal. I got the time because you took the 9 from me. I don't think he's going to get away with. I don't think they're going to get away with all 9 from. I think he's going to grab a few. You know what I mean? And then spend some time trying to grab the others. To distribute. And but that, like I said,
actually, they could get away from him, but get distributed anyway.
Yes,
and so he doesn't have a direct hand in it, but he still is in charge of them.
I mean, everything that's happening up to this point has all been Sauron's doing, force, or not hit by his hand, but like by suggestion or forcing, thinking everybody's doing the right thing. We can already have influence over people that'll get into the right hands. You know what I mean? Just like we were talking about Numenor, like, Sauron, even if he doesn't go back to Numenor and does things that the books, his influence is there. We saw it with the Plantier, right? You saw it.
See, that's how I think he's going to do it. So he's not necessarily, in the book, they say that he was captured and became the king's like right-hand man and, talked to him.
For like 20 years, they happened,
Right. So, but this way, if it's just through the Palantir, then he has more of, you know, a shadowy impact on him.
Yeah.
And saying stuff in his head that may not necessarily be true.
Well, when, you know, if Galadriel has the rings at the end of this, right? Does she have the rings at the end of this?
Yeah, she
right?
did.
The pouch. They don't know the influence over Numenor, right? So if this happens to come back to the island and all of a sudden Pharazôn has these rings, whatever, I will keep it safe. And knowing that my ultimate goal was to get a hand on these rings because Sauron's telling me this, so Sauron doesn't physically have to be on the island. It could be like this set in things that Halbrand set in motion last season. That's where I feel you can really do this. You can really, he's already done, the poison's already been dealt. And now we're seeing everything kind of like, you know, marinating and come into his plan. And I love the fact that there's still vulnerability in Sauron. There's some desperation in there, like, you know.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. I love villains that are just completely evil, no redemption, no redeeming qualities. You know, because you have plenty of them that can get redeemed and all that stuff. But Sauron's not one of them, and but he's also a loose cannon at times. And I think not overly, and not he's very smart and manipulative, but not overly. So, but I think with Eregion's destruction is going to be at the first 5 minutes of this week's next week's episode.
I
and then
think more than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
because like I said again, you just had orcs just going in through the point. There's still a lot of battle. There's still a bunch of things. There's Galadriel's got to get out of the city with the rings, or at least attempt it. You know, there's like they did a great job of making and they've done it every season.
Yeah,
making the stakes greater for the next season.
Oh,
and I know the
yeah.
crap part about the next episode is we're going to be left as usual, like we were the last season, where the whole Sauron was discovered thing, and like, oh no, I'm going to have to wait on this, and they're going to do it right up to the end. It's going to be another question into the season. Again, we have the redemption of knowing that we've got still 3 more seasons of this. Resolve. You can when it's like the Netflix model, I think, has destroyed how filmmaking is done, because now you don't know if, and they're still playing practical TV writing, where they're writing for like a season arc, and let's leave on a cliffhanger. And if you're in the modern age of television, you should not write for cliffhangers, because you don't know if you're getting
canceled. And
but with a show like this, if you know you're getting 5 seasons out of something,
then you can
100% write cliffhangers, because you know we're going to be back this season and we're going to actually be able to finish this storyline. That's what makes this show a lot more dramatic and a little bit more, I would say, even on the level where it's more thought-provoking, is that I'm going to see unless something out of tomorrow blows up and Amazon's wiped off the face of the planet.
Well,
we know.
I don't think I'd blame them then. All right. Well, they had a legitimate excuse. They're just
something like, they massive bankruptcy and overnight they went out of business or something.
Yeah.
Then all right, but at this moment though, we know we're gonna get this, and that's the more I say satisfying part of this television is that I'm not guessing this show's coming back. I know this show's coming back.
And they're doing these arcs, right? Like the first, like when they told us second season it's going to be very Sauron driven, and they delivered. And so when they tell me season 3 is going to be, I'm going to trust it. I'm going to be like, all right. But like I said, the fact that we got the completion of the Rings of Power, they're here. We're not in season 5 with their completion. Now we're on season 2 with the completion. And now, of course, one more episode, and maybe they get distributed next, or in the sense of like, all right, we know the trajectory of what's going to happen. Season 3, I think, is going to be distributing to the Kingdom of Men and the East. They have to go east, and the finale is going to be very, very interesting. I think we're going to get 5 plots at once. I think we're going to go boom, 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 and probably introduce somebody brand new, I don't know.
Well, I was going to say the we'll find out if Celebrimbor has a 2-season contract or a 3-season contract.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
can get rid of him in the next episode, or something that Anatar said to him made me think that he might be sticking around for season 3, because he said, "Have you ever been tortured by a god?"
Oh,
So
yeah.
that could be like a whole season of
Right.
like in Game of Thrones when they had what's his name
Yeah.
tied up and horrible things happened to him.
Yes.
The whole season he was a bad guy to begin with, but you
Yeah.
actually felt bad for him because
Yeah.
even worse things were being done to him. But that could be like tortured for a whole season. And where are those rings? That's what he needs to know, right?
I mean,
give me those. Where are they? Where did they go?
Galadriel was so hell bent on saving Celebrimbor and telling everybody who he is and his importance of everything. And yeah, I believe Sauron's going to try to break Galadriel like in that way. And you're right. It's not going to be like, well, I'm going to kill all my leverage if I don't have these rings in my hand. And so if she came after him once, he'll come after him again. And the only way I'm going to do it if those rings are, you're 100% right. That could be man, I feel so bad for him already. He got
it's not a happy ending for him.
No. Either way, it's not going to be a happy ending for Celebrimbor. Yeah,
but they did a great job with Brimbor's arc because he's at the height of the city.
Yeah,
and then he's like, and then there's a certain point where after the rings are made last season, he seems unfulfilled, even by these great pieces of masterpiece. And then Sauron shows back up, gives him more fulfillment, and then. He's again. It's a great arc between these two characters. I think that season 2 technically is more Brimbor and Sauron's story than anyone else's.
Yes,
and I think the first season it was more of the other elves and other Galadriel and the other elves that had to get involved. And I think that this season it's more or less. I think it's Brimbor's pride. Of the making of the rings, this is downfall of this. And
it's the need for perfection.
Because that you can achieve.
Well, because the Cimmerals were the pinnacle of jewels. Yes. Pinnacle. They captured the light of the trees. You could not get anything close to that again. And it was, I mean, it's all in the Silmarillion. And Celebrimbor with these rings felt the closest he could to perfection, like the Cimmerals. And that was thrown in his face too. Like Sauron threw that in his face. I mean, when he covered him and walked in the courtyard and everybody was crafting and had the statue of Fëanor, and he's a descendant, so it's in his blood. And exploiting that, like, you could be great too. You could be greater. And I think that's where those, like I said, the 3 rings, and then he was really quick to do the dwarven rings. But the race of men and elves have always been a very turmoil thing, and that's where he was like, no, they don't deserve it. They're not gonna. It's not gonna end well with them. And that's that whole thing about like, this is not about elves and men. This is about Middle Earth. Sauron is telling him, and that forced him to be like, for the greater good of all beings, I need to do these. And it came to exploiting that need for perfection, and then you can go down in the history books as one of the greatest, if not the greatest. That's why his end is so emotional. But
you need that. You need the up and down. You need
I love it. I mean,
you need the interaction. I think it's what makes the series as well and as unique as Peter Jackson's. Is that it's the actors. Even when they've replaced actors have came in and did as the same job as the exiting actor. That's extremely hard to get audiences to, because we immediately start off with several characters that are recasted. And they did such a great job that we don't even notice it at this point in the season.
No.
It just was a seamless transition. That goes to show the dedication that the people behind the scenes are putting in, and the actors because it's just not some open casting call we're going to replace. You're like, I have to take this same actor's energy
I'm doing
and transform it.
Kate Blanchett and Hugo Weaving, right?
Yes.
Taking over for them. That's rough.
I mean, exactly. I so far in these 2 seasons, Arindir, Adar, and Sauron, or Anatar, really, are my 3 favorite characters to follow. That the character acting is superb. Their roles are superb. They're just very a pleasure to watch on screen. Like even Celebrimbor, like
yes.
There's nothing that I've seen in the 2 seasons so far that get me to go, well, yeah, well, that part was a little cringe, or that part was a little whatever. I've loved every minute of it. You know, like I said, the attention to detail is so there. Someone pointed out on I was watching an article on the season stuff. They were talking about Anatar and how he's more clad in black every time we see him. His outfit's more black and getting darker, and his belt has the design weavings of the floor of Eregion. It was just kind of like he's putting himself as like, again, it's that detail that he's telling all the other elves around there, like, I'm one of you, don't worry, this is it. But at the same time, he's kind of showing his hand a little bit, by wearing the only one that wears all black, you know what I mean? And and
also the way they treated Meridia, right? I think that was her name, where he got her to totally believe that Celebrimbor has lost his mind. And then as soon as, he tries to confront her and get her, and she's maybe has a bit of a nope. And, it was that thing of Anatar just did this and made her go over.
Yeah. And
that was rough. And
brutal,
then immediately is killed by a orc.
And again, I have such an appreciation for not holding back when it comes to like series and movies and stuff. It's like, oh, she fell over, let's not rescue her. They killed her. Not that I was happy that I was just like that. It just meant so it was powerful for Celebrimbor to see that and to think that he was responsible for that, and then the guards to see that, and I was like, oh man, like that was brutal. And I love the fact that the show doesn't hold back. Like this is a dangerous world. This isn't a TV for kids kind of stuff. Where they water the Tolkien lore down. Or make it nice and fun and tongue in cheek, But
it is more family friendly than House of the Dragon.
Oh God, yes. And
so you can watch this with your kids.
Yeah,
just like it's a little violent, but
Me personally, I always like more if it's in that graded R category. I'm more in line of the graphics versus language and nudity. Like I can care less about language and nudity. It's like I don't want that in. I'm a huge horror fan, and they put it in there because they think that's what we want. I don't care about that, but gore I do. I like the violence of it, and I like because it's I don't know. It's just it's not as fake. It's not as fake.
War's brutal.
Yeah, man.
Filmed in a way that. It's the last resort of something that human beings or orcs or whoever should be taken in the first place. And in order for you to put yourself into that, there needs to be a resolution worth your lives to do it. So in this case, they've done that. They escalated it to a point where this was the only outcome that could happen. Yeah. And it needed to happen, and they've done it in such a respectful way. I think Game of Thrones, and we'll get about that in some later episodes.
Yeah.
They do things just at a shock value. It's like, it's cool to see a dragon burn up some bunch of people.
Yeah.
But there's no point in it. It's just done
but not like
for a point of
10 times
violence.
in 3 episodes.
Exactly.
But like, this was also Tolkien's original goal with these books in the first place, is to show like the evil that can happen. And he saw it in the world around him. He went to war.
I mean,
so, he's like, no, this is not a fun business. It's people die and horrible things happen, but sometimes there are things worth fighting for.
I mean, just to close off with that, and like you going back to The Hobbit, the first story, it reads like a kid's book. It is a kid's book. It's a very first person thing or third person. Sorry, like Bilbo does this and Bilbo does that. And it's read so innocent, but yet the world is so dangerous, and knowing that this is the same world, you know what I mean? Where we get to witness and read back and how Tolkien was writing this elaborate, dangerous world. I felt like it really puts that when there is joy in Middle Earth, it's overwhelming. It's deserved. Yes, we like bad guys. Yes, we like the destruction. I like Sauron. I don't want to see him defeated, but at the same time, in the overall story, when he is defeated, you get that sense of like, all right, it's finally done. You know what I mean? And I love that more than any shock value there can be. You know what I mean? And you get such an innocent story like The Hobbit into this kind of world. It's brilliant. It's freaking brilliant, you know. And so I'll close with this, and then you guys can have final thoughts. But like, instead of people arguing about certain things like this, just appreciate that you're here for it, that you're alive in the fact that you get Tolkien, Star Wars, all these great story IPs that we get to live and marinate on a daily basis, and it's being brought to us. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because I feel sorry for people that won't get into this stuff. Like, I used to say, like, pre-1977, no one had Star Wars. Like, well, what did you do for, you know, you didn't do anything. You know what I mean? So, but, you know, just appreciate that we get to live in this fantasy world and, you know, escape a little bit. So and I cannot wait for the finale. It's a bittersweet moment because I don't want it to end. I'm having so much fun with it. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm ready to see, you know, what they do, because I'm in it, man.
And I think it's just like, you know, it's sometimes, you know, you need to sustain in the moments. Instead of putting something so far out there in the future. Take the moments in and understand that this is something that for right now you can enjoy. Look, we're in the middle of a bunch of political seasons and things like that in our lifetime. Yeah. This is just something where you can escape, sit down and watch, and understand that the war here is not critical. Right. It's something that's delivered on the page and everything. It's meant for entertainment. And that, you know, you can just suspend the reality of the world and everything. Yes. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Because once you walk out that door, it becomes real. You know what I mean? And who wants that? You know?
Yeah. There's cave trolls out there. They just look like city buses. Just, you know.
Very much so.
Well, with that and everything, as usual, when we boil down, this is the part of the show that we just absolutely do like. We always have fun and everything, reminiscing, but there is a piper to pay. And this is the best piper to pay and everything. It's that our sponsor, the Toshi Station Emporium, if you're not getting your figure stands from them, then what are you doing? And we've got a little something for you.
And if you print up enough of those, you can have the entire Death Star.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like the movie is epic, man. The music in it is epic.
Oh, yeah.
And the stands are epic. If you got NECA, if you got McFarlane, if you have Hasbro, if you're running around with Fresh Monkey Fix, doesn't matter who it's for. There's a stand for everyone, whether you're in the horror, sci-fi, it's all there. If you're not ordering from it, what are you doing? Again, I've got 10 already ordered. Why aren't you ordering 10 now?
Let's go. Let's go.
And also, we told you there was a homework assignment. Not only do you need to subscribe to the Shadow Nose Network, subscribe to the Sarlacc Digest podcast. If you're not subscribing to the Toshi Station Emporium, then you're missing out on some really good critical 3D knowledge and behind-the-scenes footage of these amazing stands and that amazing thing that you just saw, the Emperor's Throne Room. That's all on the Toshi Station Emporium. Darth Moocher, what's coming up on that channel?
I am scheduling another live stream pretty soon, and for all you, again, going into, because we do different lines of different things, but I'm concentrating on the Star Wars Death Star walls expanding. I have a whole wave. I just went head down and just started designing the hell out of things because people are asking. And I'm like, I will give you, if you ask for it, I will give it to you. No problem if it makes sense. And so I'll be doing a live stream that's going to be describing the entire expansion on the existing walls that I have. So, and of course I have a lot more because I got my multicolor 3D printer now. That's in my arsenal. And that is going to be a thing moving forward to products. You're going to see, you know, a lot more realistic looking things, you know.
Well, I saw the pumpkin. That looked awesome.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much. I'm having so much. I fell in love with 3D printing all over again, and it's this machine, like this type of machine. And I felt like, okay, where can they go from here? And I'm just blown away. And I'm like, why didn't I buy this sooner? You know what I mean? Like, why didn't I get into this type sooner? So right away, I just started pulling things off the internet to print. But now I am 24/7 thinking about how to design things for Tashi Station and figure stands and figure collecting. You know, so it's gonna be fun.
Well, I think the thing that people forget about is that it's not just you're making a stand; it's some art involved into it, and you can see that mastery in the same way that Celebrimbor was making rings. Well, Dark Lucha's making stands right here.
So I will gladly make stands for Sauron. Gladly, like, you know.
if you definitely, especially the backdrops, I love the new the Star Wars stands with the highlighted underneath. All of these aspects are like one of those things that you move into more and more, and you're like, you see the mastery, and you know that the difference of it. And you heard what he said was that if you're asking, I'm going to make it. Hear that, Hasbro? Hear that, NECA? Hear all the rest of these companies? Is that somebody basically is listening to you and taking that feedback and giving it right back to you. You can't appreciate that even more, man.
Yeah, you know, practice what you preach, right? So. You know, lead by example. Hasbro.
Look, I almost want to get into the G.I. Joe figures because those stands are so cool with the explosion behind them, and then also the one with the Cobra. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah, it was like when I did it, I feared like, oh, there's so many versions out there, and I couldn't find anybody. People were cutting out like paper and doing it. And I'm like, well, why isn't this a thing? You know, and I've had so much success with those, and it's like, well, this should, again, why not? You know, and they
look awesome.
Thank you. There's people want me to do a 3 3/4 version of it too, again, and I'm listening, and I will be doing that too. So
you heard everyone out there for the Super 7 reaction O-rings.
That's right.
That's something coming pretty soon. And everything.
They're out now. They're out now.
Yep, now he'll have stands for him coming pretty soon down the pipeline. Don't worry. You ask, he's given.
Absolutely. I love I'm not saying this. I love the community. I love the community that goes to my Instagram and gives me feedback and tells me even suggestions. Hey, you should have done this. You know what? I'll take that into consideration, and we'll revise it that way. You know, I'm a collector myself, so I know I do things for myself. Like, it's very Star Wars heavy, but I try to hit a lot of things like the Ninja Turtles. I don't collect Ninja Turtles, but I felt that was a need to do a sewer stand, you know. I'm still struggling on what to bring to the Marvel table, but this 4-color thing is going to really help me with that. So stay tuned. The most important thing you could do on any channel is like and subscribe and follow all the affiliates, because the word will get around.
Absolutely. And like I said, again, it's just so befitting that for Getting Medieval, you have Getting Great Stands. The Tashi
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you.
So from there, we got one more of the Power of the Ring series left. And that's going to be next week for you. So as you guys are salivating about that, but that's not the end of Getting Medieval. Don't think for any moment that just because the Rings of Power is over that we're done. No. We've got more stuff planned. We've got a Middle Earth 101. We've got some other things. We've got some D&D that we might be going over. We've got some Game of Thrones that we may have to get back into. So there is a lot more stuff coming beyond just the Ring of Power. Is a lot more Tolkien, a lot more, maybe some Martin, maybe some D&D.
There's been a few fantasy franchises over the years. You know, we're not going to run out of material.
No. And we can also dig up old stuff like Krull, right? We can always dig up like some great movies to revisit.
Yeah, that's the best part about the show. So for myself, Alexander Storm, for Dr. Brentley and Darth Moocher. Before we go, like I always say, the editor's going to throw in something about our live streaming schedule, and that'll be at the end. But you guys take care.
Thank you.